Hi, this is Pete Meiser. This last weekend marked the 1 year point from when I resigned from my job to take a sabbatical. For me, a sabbatical was like a retirement where I planned from the start to have an unretirement a year or two later. At this 1 year point, I thought I would try a video to update people on what I've been doing in the past year. And I'll try again next week with another video to talk about what I plan to do next and what I think my next year will look like. My approach this past year from the start has been every day I wanted to do something that I've never done before, something new, which is easier to do than it may sound. There's so many things to do and to try and to learn and make mistakes at. For the most part, I could do this almost accidentally just by doing the things that I wanted to do during this time. The biggest category of those things would fall under building. Building as a verb and also in a very general sense, everything from literally buildings. We built a 48 by 36 foot shed on our property this year, to building landscapes, to building software and products. I'll talk more about software and products in my next video. My wife, my kids, and I, we live on land that in its previous life was a tree farm. Essentially, it was an abandoned tree farm. Not abandoned like the previous owners, left town and just kind of left it, but abandoned in that it had been farmed for 50 years as a tree farm, and then that just kind of stopped. Trees were still pulled out of it, but the holes were left, piles of dirt sitting there. The land was disturbed enough that it was no longer good for anything for people or animals or plants. Unless you happen to be an invasive plant, then you love this situation. At this point, I could probably teach a class about invasive plant species here in the state of Minnesota. The second big category is health, as in my health. I lost 30 pounds. I started running. Those two things are related, but also different. For running, I peaked last summer. I ran almost 200 miles in the month of July. Now, that pace has come down a bit as I've been trying to find a balance between a high level of fitness, yet also something that I can sustainably do as I go back to work and career in the coming many years. Last in health, so the last 10 years I've had a lot more trouble managing my chronic migraine than my first 40 years. And I had thought that getting in better health might help the migraines. That really hasn't worked. The good news here is that I'm starting a new medication, or I just started a new medication. As you may know, there's been lots of new medications for migraines in the past 10 years. I've generally run about a generation behind on those, and I think I'm getting close to getting this figured out. By the way, I can talk further about building, about weight loss, running, all these things in future videos if folks are interested. Next topic of things I've been doing, travel and personal business. So personal business, for example, our two kids are high school age. The oldest is a senior in high school, so helping her research colleges, ultimately choose a college, that's been a big thing. One thing I learned here, you could help your kid too much with college selection, or you could help them not enough. In this area, those two things, they should be mutually exclusive, but those two things seems like they can exist at the same time. Also, so for travel, one of the common questions I got when I told people I was going to take this time was, am I going to travel? My answer was usually some version of no, that's not what this is for. My answer should have been maybe. Having the time to plan and execute travel has definitely been part of this time. We've taken more trips in the last year or so. We've had 4 trips, for personal fun, where you had to get on a plane to take the trip, and that's a much greater frequency than we've done in the past. Last sort of topic area, social, friends, and colleagues. A year ago, I started out strong in this area with some lunches and video calls, Highlights include, it's always great to have lunch with someone you haven't seen in a few years, or video calls. I had calls with people that I haven't talked to in 10 or 15 years. I can do better in this area. There might be some of you thinking, or maybe a lot of you, or maybe I flatter myself, thinking, well, where's my lunch, or where's my phone call? I promise you, I want to see you too. And I look forward to getting better and better at this over the coming 50 years, if the world will still have me. So this first video, this first talking to the internet, really, it's been historical and it's been summarizing. I'll do another video next week, as I mentioned, to talk about what I'm going to do next. And I'll close this with a natural question of, am I happy with the choice that I made to take this time? And the answer to that is absolutely. I've been very grateful for this time. You know, one thing I'll mention as a learning, I've never really had a situation where I had a clear year, where a clear start of it, a clean slate, and then I could look back at that year and reflect what I've done and what I've learned and those sorts of things. You know, as busy working people and professionals, we always have so many things going on at once, and the next new thing starts before the last one ended. And even if when we do finish something, we don't take the time to look back at it. You know, I've generally been looking towards the next thing and running ahead. And so having that save point of a year ago to then look back and reflect has been one of the unexpected benefits. So thank you, and I'll see you next time.